Wage slavery. How does it happen? How do we get out? This is a part one and a part two. I'm super delighted to have you on my channel first. Tom Scrillius, mate, welcome to my channel and thanks so much for being here, man.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very nice to be here. So it's actually my first podcast, by the way.
Well, I'm one of many to come, I'm sure. And I'm looking forward to jumping into this. For everyone listening, I'm pretty sure you've seen Tom before. We had to make this happen because both you and we talk about getting out the 9 to 5, the actual trap, the lie that we've been told. And I would say that we are one of very few that are exposing it in quite a lot of detail, and we really dive into it, don't we?
Yeah, and I think we're very honest about how we feel about it too, because I don't think a lot of people are actually very honest about how they feel about work, you know? So that's something that we have in common, definitely.
Yeah. Well, look, for everyone watching, this is going to be a great episode. We're not going to waste your time. We're going to jump straight into it. And what I want to do, just to kick this off, because I think it works really well, we're going to use some visuals here, and I'm just going to expand this, right? And I want to go over this with all of you, because we're then going to dive into each section. So let's just look at these images and really take a look at what they actually mean. So programming, wherever you are in the world, starts from 4 years old as soon as you enter the school system. Okay. And we're going to dive into this, so we don't need to linger on them too much. And then essentially, as you get older, you enter into the rat race, the hamster wheel, Groundhog Day. You can call it whatever you want, but it's living a life on repeat, essentially, until you visit Jesus. And that's the sad thing about it. You know, this is something we're going to dive into: work stress and the actual statistics and surveys and the facts of how damaging remaining in one place, serving someone else as a suppressed human being can actually be. And that's the God's honest truth. We're not fluffing it. And like Tom just said, I think we get such an impact on our content as smaller creators because we actually address facts, and people don't like it when they have to face reality. I call it vinegar on a wound. 40 hours a week is the biggest scam. I know, Tom, you've spoken about that. I've spoken about this a lot. And then money is the root of all evil. Making money is evil. We've got a horrible gremlin goblin thing there out of Harry Potter, the bank, Gringotts. And then look, if you make money online, you must be a scammer. Because if you've got out the 9 to 5 and you make money through your laptop or your phone, you are a scammer, right? And
Yeah.
we're here to address that. So look, let's Tom, we've got these on our phone, and for anyone else watching, it will be on the screen or I can have it pop up somewhere. Let's start. If we can jump right back to, when we are young and we enter the school system, we're suppressed, right? And it really begins there. So I'll let you take it from there, man.
Sure. Okay. So I'm the kind of person who's always like been wired to question the status quo. So most people, they just sort of follow the line, you know? And I'm someone who has to understand the reason behind it. Like, why do I have to get up this early to go to work? Like, what am I doing this for? And it's usually some soul-crushing place. I think most people can agree on that. Like, it's not like we're saving the dolphins or anything, usually. It's usually some crappy job where you're doing crappy work that nobody really cares about. And so you do this the entire day, and then you come home, and then you do it again the next day, the next week, the next year, and ultimately your whole life. And if we look at like the pattern of the 9 to 8 slave, like I've seen you have like a circle. I have a circle too. Can we show the slide or?
I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the thing is that if we look at like the way we normally work, it's the circle, right? We just keep repeating the same thing over and over again. But if we look at someone like you, an entrepreneur, you are actually building something that sustains you. Yeah, that's a good one too. But that's the circle that we're just repeating this loop and nobody is questioning it. Have you noticed that like nobody's talking about this? Everybody just shows up for work and
Yeah.
just because it's normal, right? And the sad part is that everybody, we're going to do this for most of our lives. And what's an even worse thing is that we tell our kids to do the same thing. And like you said, it starts at 4. You go to school, the teachers tell us to do it, our parents, our friends, everybody. It's just this is normal life and nobody questions it. And if you were to question it, well, then you're either greedy, or you're evil trying to make money. It's just I don't like it.
Do you think though this is a part of the suppression? Like this is the creativity that has totally been crushed and our outside the box thinking, like almost like our survival instincts, where you go into this very rigid and narrow education system and workplace, and because it's so rigid and because there's no room for error and you have to follow the guidelines that are given to you, you stop thinking for yourself. And people like me and you, where I know it's going to be like that for you, and because I've watched your videos and we've spoken now and we talk, but also for me, when I was in my job, I was scratching my head thinking, but I wouldn't do it like that. Or no, I don't agree with that. So, but why do I have to conform just because 20, 30 other people are all nodding their head going along with it? But our creativity from that early age, right, it gets suppressed. And that's kind of where I suppose most people now they fall in line and they don't question this insanity that, I call it.
Exactly. Well, I've been doing a lot of research into this, how it all got started. And I've been looking into a lot of history. And don't worry, I'm not going to turn this into like a history lesson or anything like that. But I just want to paint this picture of, how it used to be and how it is now today. Like today, we have this normal life. Everybody works the 9 to 5. And back in the day, like the 1500s, the dark ages, like, and everybody knows that the Industrial Revolution, that was the highlight of civilization. Everything changed for the better because before then it's like, ooh, oh, that was bad. No, yeah, you wouldn't want to go back to the Middle Ages. That was terrible. That's what we've been taught at school, right? That it was terrible back then. And then, Henry Ford came and he was like a knight in shining armor saving us. But that's that's the thing about history. And this is actually something that just came to me the other day. What happens if you remove the two first letters of the word history? Story, right?
So, yeah.
Yeah, because if you think about it, when you talk about history, you tell a narrative, but history is just filled with facts and people and events. But if you narrow it down to what you want to say, like it's very different. Like if you look at a newspaper article, if you look at it in different newspapers, it can sound very differently. And it's the same here. If you look at history and you look at the Industrial Revolution as like progress, then everybody just cheers on and accepts this reality that, yeah, everything is for the better. But if we look closely in history, we find out that there are things that most people are not aware about.
Mm.
And I wanted to sort of mention some of those things today. But yeah, that programming we talk about, it's been done from generation to generation and it keeps repeating, keeps enhancing, and yeah.
The puppet strings become shorter, as I call it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this stems from as well is not wanting to look at facts and actually not wanting to look at history because again just quickly before we move on to the next slide of getting trapped and that kind of that cycle that we just end up on is that I think, and from comments, from looking at surveys and studies and really diving into it, humans, you just said it a minute ago as well. Humans don't like to face reality because the truth hurts. And when you address the reality and you address the truth, you can do one of two things. You hide from it or you accept it and you do something about it. But the doing something about it is typically really hard. A lot harder than just burying your head in the sand. And that's why I think 99% of people, they never do anything about it because they know that it's wrong, but they also know that it's too hard to try and go against a system, which is why there's only 1% of us. You haven't got to be
Yeah.
you're in by the way, to anyone listening, to be in the 1%, You don't have to be a billionaire. You have to be the 1% that says, I'm not going along with traditional society. I'm not going along with the norm. And I refuse to put up with it. So look, let's for anyone, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's just share these. Let's go on these slides again, right? Let's quickly go over this image here, right? It's a man stuck in the cycle and he's got a couple of rats attached to him. If they're rats, they could be they look like a little bit like mice or whatever, but these are rats, right? This image here is trying to break away, right? You've got the guy in the corporate suit. I'm sure you see this all the time. A lot of your videos, I love the whole B-roll that you do, Tom, right? You're traveling and, like the whole commuting thing.
Yeah.
You've seen this. I've seen this in London. Like, how many times have you seen? I've literally done a video on TikTok about this. The corporate title and the obsession with having a corporate title and the three-piece suit, it keeps them trapped, right? What's your take on this image?
I mean, this is the reality of things. This is how it feels and looks. And yeah, it's when I make my videos, it's sort of the image I'm trying to show. Like this is my experience of it. But yeah, this picture is great. This is wage
Just summed
slavery.
it up. I mean, we've all seen it. Like anyone listening, if you have a corporate job, we know you've been there. You've been on the train, you've been on the bus, you've been on the tube, and it's stressful and it's no life to live. There is more to life than money, believe me, but money, especially financial independence, it gives you a life of choice and options. This one here, Tom, let's dive into this, right? And let's just look at our if you can look at your phones, right, we'll see each other on big screen here, right? Let's just bring this up on our phones because we've got the statistics. This is probably the biggest thing that I'm trying to help people with, especially in my short form. I don't know if you just want to go through this because facts don't lie, and divorce, burnout, mental health, heart disease, just being unhappy and disengaged. I don't know if you just want to talk us through the reality and what I suppose, is there a solution to this?
Wow. Well, doing what you did,
Yeah.
getting out of wage slavery. But it's just so sad when I look at these statistics. Like, I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, it's just sad when we talk about percentages, like 80% of workers are unhappy. Like, it's
Yeah.
just sad. And I'm gonna give you another fun fact. I did a YouTube video like years ago about homeless people actually happier than regular worker. Now I know this sounds crazy, and maybe it's a bit, you know, it's not good to say things like that homeless people are better off. But my point is that if you actually ask homeless people how happy they are, actually they seem to be happier than workers. And that's a weird statistic, but at the same time, every morning when I get up, and sometimes there is a homeless person that's like sleeping in the train station. And I'm just thinking, wait a second, why do I have to get up early and rush to work? And this homeless person, he's resting, he's sleeping in. I mean, what's wrong with this picture? Like, if I have the better life, how come I have to, hurry to work? And, the stress and things that you have talked a lot about, like the stress that instinct kicks in, that you're late and you have to survive. And but if you look at the homeless person, he's relaxing, he's resting. Now, I don't want to downplay homelessness. It's obviously a terrible thing for a lot of people. They usually have all sorts of problems, but it's just interesting to me, the differences. And they are free, they can do whatever they want.
I think the message as well is it's not necessarily how much how much you have in terms of the title, the money. It's actually that element of freedom. I think that's the thing. And this also ties into, and what we'll talk about in part two is that it's not about how much money you make. It's not about how much you own. It's about time and freedom.
Yeah.
How much do you own in terms of your life? And I think that's when you look at these statistics, although they're very different in their own metrics, for example, work stress, divorce rate, burnout. Tom, it's funny, right? I've been asked this a few times. Aaron, do you not get burnout? And it's funny because my answer is no, even with how many plates I'm spinning and how busy I get, I never get burnt out because I love it. I thoroughly enjoy it. I become I can become overwhelmed with the amount I have to manage and my tasks and but that is all self-inflicted like what I enjoy. I love a challenge, but burnout has never really been a thing to me because burnout to anyone listening is just a sign that you're just fed up. And
Mm.
and that's one of the things that really affects people. Heart disease again, oh my God, I don't know if you've known anyone, Tom, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
actually do know people who have literally keeled over with heart attacks. No
yeah,
joke.
yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
it's
Same
a real
here.
thing. Let's Tom, let's dive on to the punchy title of 40 because this really rattles some people. 40 hours a week is the biggest scam and it's a lie.
Yeah,
If you want to dive into that about
yeah, I'd love to.
40 hours, take it away.
Right. So, like there is a long history, and I don't want to go into that because it's a long history, but basically it started with Henry Ford introducing the 40-hour work week. Now, if we look at this slide that I have and we sort of compare the then and now at first glance, if you look at it on the left side, you see that we used to work 12 hours per day, 6 days per week. And then with the change and the reform of Henry Ford, we only worked 8 hours per day, 5 days per week. And, people celebrated it. It was truly a good idea, but the reason for it, it wasn't because Henry Ford loved people. It was because it was actually the most effective way to utilize people. Because a person, I mean, okay, there are probably, I'm sure that you work more than 8 hours, at least some days. But uh, if we're talking about manual labor, uh, you know, in a factory or something like that, then 8 hours is like the limit of efficiency. But what's really, really interesting about this, and this is what I would like to call a magician's act, because it's sort of like the magician is taking out a rabbit out of a hat, and everybody's looking at it, and it goes like, "Oh, look, we're only working 40 hours." Only 5 days per week. And he does something, kind of sleight of hand maneuver. But the thing is, we've never worked more than we do today. Never in history. If you look at that image, I show below there that we work around 250 work days per year. Used to
Mhm.
be less. It used to be 180 for a number of reasons, but mostly because we used to work like seasonally. So people didn't work in the winter time. Like, I'm not saying that life wasn't hard or that work wasn't hard, but we had more freedom. And I think that's a big thing. But nobody talks about that. Like nobody talks about that.
Why
So,
do you think no one talks about it though? I mean, I have my own views on why no one talks about it, but why do you think more people aren't acknowledging it? Because it's not like, by the way, the stuff that we're talking about and the stuff that me and you talk about online, it's
mm,
not secrets.
no,
It
no,
this
everything is not, like I didn't find this in some obscure book, deep in the library. Like this is, you can ask ChatGPT, did we or did we not, do we not work more today than ever in history? You'll get the answer. So yeah, it's a really good question, and I think that there are layers of, um, you know, it's the programming is one thing. Like everybody talks about, like a word that I'm scared of is the word normal, you know, because we look at normal and it's like, oh, well, working 40 hours per week, that's normal, right? Like, yeah, but the problem with the word normal is that there are a lot of things in history that were considered normal. Like sterilization of homosexuals or child labor, or I mean, the list goes on. Like you burned witches, or actually they were probably just women. I don't think they were actually witches. I don't quote me on that, but that's what I think. Or like forced sterilizations, smoking was considered normal and
yeah,
healthy even.
yeah.
So the word normal, anytime anybody says this is normal, I would be extra careful and just be critical, source critical. This is one of the things, I trash going to college a lot. You didn't go to the university, right?
I didn't go to college or university. No, I
Yeah,
walked away with one GCSE. Yeah.
yeah, I did. And for most part, I think it was a waste of time because it was essentially just wage slave programming. But there
Yeah.
was one thing that I did learn, and I don't think you have to go to the uni to learn this, but it is to be critical. Anything anybody says online or in newspapers, just be critical and make up your own opinion. And I think that people don't do that. And the reason for that, one of the reasons is that I think we're just tired. We don't have the energy to think. I mean, if you think about it, you work 8 hours per day, then you have to include the commute, the lunch hour, the overtime, and then you just go home, you're exhausted. When are you supposed to be critical of these things? Can't. And that's the system.
I think you hit the nail on the head with things used to be normal because if we are both seeing this, we spoke about this the other day, right, on the phone, is that or on Zoom. There's this change at the moment, and I feel that me and you, and there are other people out there who are leading this spearhead front of this change that is happening, this transition of people waking up and information circulating, because that's all this is information circulating, and more people listen. If you look at the likes of David Icke, I don't know if you know who David Icke is, but back in the 80s and 90s, there was a witch hunt out for him to silence him about
Mm,
the conspiracies, about the elites and the system and the governments. And where people weren't aware that the mainstream medias were outright liars, they used to criticize and they used to try and crush David Icke and silence him. Whereas now, everything that the guy said, going against normality back then, is actually coming to light. And we're all like, actually, we can clearly see the government is controlled and they are just puppets. And the news and the mainstream media, they do lie. But and we are at the forefront of now saying, right, the next stage of all of this is the 9 to 5 is a rigged system.
yeah.
It's totally rigged against you. And and I feel that because we're going through the different generations, we've still got the majority of the older generation, the boomers who have worked 30, 40 years, and they're listening to the likes of me and you going, who do you entitled individuals think you are? You're lazy
Mm.
and you should be working until you're 70 years old until retirement. And I feel that we're a part of that new movement. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the example you used. And I've seen similar things. Like there's so many stories like that that at first it's like conspiracy theory.
Mm.
And then it turns out like 6 months later, oh, but you know, China did make that, the cucumber 19, let's call it that. Uh, you know, it was made in the lab, stuff like that. It
Income.
happens all the time. But yeah, I totally, totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mad. Which leads us on to the next slide. Let's bring my ugly friend up on screen, and he is the golem, right? It's this guy.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
So, let's just leave him there, right? He's counting all of his pennies, and he obviously likes his money there, right? So
Yeah.
I know we've got the images on our phone, right? So money, is money the root of all evil? If you work a job and you exchange 40 hours, or 180 hours a month or whatever it is, fine, take home a salary. It's not a problem, stay in your place, don't step outside your lane, and keep your head down and work until 70 years old, and you'll get paid a fair wage. If you want more than that and you want to make money, to most people you're evil and you're stealing from the poor and you're a person that is selfish. Let's talk about the fact that, quite frankly, money is not the root of all evil. In my opinion, money is the root of all happiness. That literally is the happiness in my life because of what it brings, not the
Mm.
actual physical paper. Let's start with that and address the relationship around money because that's holding a lot of people back.
Well, first of all, that quote is actually misquoted. I think in the Bible it says something like the greed for money is evil. Like the the original quote isn't actually that money is the root of all evil. So we're not saying it correctly. And I think that's for a reason. I think that somewhere along the line, it became more practical for society to have people not wanting money, to just exchange time for a salary. And it's just so weird. that, like, you probably get this a lot. You get these comments of people saying that you're a scammer, that oh, you're just saying that because you want people to buy your course or something like that. I get those comments all the time, even though technically I don't have a course on how to get out of wage slavery. But my point is they're typing this from an iPhone that costs like 1,500.
Yeah.
And the reason they don't see it is because companies, they're sort of these faceless entities, you know? But the truth is, there are actually actual people behind these companies. You know, Apple, Amazon, there are actual people who are selling these products. They're not just uh, they're not just monsters, or like it's not even the right word. I just think that when we look at companies, we don't see them as human. But the truth is there is a human behind the wall. We just don't talk about it. We don't see it. And that's probably done on purpose sometimes, that we're not supposed to think that a person is actually making a lot of money. And so it's
Mhm.
just so weird. And if you offer a product like a course on how to build your own business, or I have a YouTuber course, and it's bringing value to people. That's what it is, right? And if people want it, if they like it, they'll buy it, they'll recommend it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong to building, offering something of value and selling it. But somehow, if you make a product, if you sell it, you're the problem.
Yeah. I think we're in again, we're in a transition phase. We are moving all online. Everything is online. And again, we've got all this dead weight of people that refuse to accept that the new world is online, and the big money and the fast money and the exciting money is a possibility and accessible to all of us who learn and add new strings to our bow. And there's a lot of people that are not willing to accept that. And they are the ones that are on their, iPhones that they've paid £1,500 for, and they've got a lot to say, but not a lot to do about their own lives. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, right? You just hit the nail on the head, because I've spoken about this in the past. People are so quick to judge corporations and personal brands and public figures, or personal brands of people who are online and selling stuff. But what they forget is, let's take a look at Amazon, who also employs 36,000 employees,
Yeah.
and all the tax, all the pension contributions, all of this that they are doing for society. So, at the end of the day, a business and making money online, again, is always a fair exchange. As long as you're not, I don't believe in hard selling, and I know you don't either. But yeah, we are here to sell. And when people say things such as, "Oh, you're just selling to make money," yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. I want to make more money. And just finally, I recently picked up my new BMW, right?
Yeah, I saw
And
the video actually.
yeah, yeah, beautiful car, and bought it outright. And the salesman actually followed me on TikTok, believe it or not, which made my life easier, because then
Of course.
I was able to leverage that conversation. But the point is, I knew exactly what that salesman was doing. He was using sales techniques, which, he was talking to a businessman. I get it. Like, he doesn't need to. And he was trying to sweeten me up. And, he bought my son a football t-shirt, and, he did all the extras and threw in all the packages. He's selling to me
Mm,
because he's in person. I'm not going to call him a scammer, because he's
no.
doing his job. He is
Yeah.
selling to me, and he is making, because they now have to disclose how much money they make. Salesmen, they have to disclose how much commission they make. I knew how much money he was going to make on the commission of my car sale. I'm
Mm,
fine with it, because there is a fair exchange. I'm getting value from the sale he's making.
mm,
And this is something that people, again, they don't want to think about it. Like, you and
yeah.
I both sell things online.
Yeah.
Perfect, great. Why do we do it? We want to make more money.
Yeah.
Simple. There's no more.
And it gives value. You
And
know,
it
if it
adds
doesn't give
value.
value, then it doesn't sell. So
Yeah, we just have to deliver on our promise.
yeah.
So, to anyone listening, yeah, I think we cleared that up. Look, money is not the root of all evil. Let's talk about this next one, right? Which is, and we briefly spoke about this on a Zoom, I believe, or the first time we spoke, is that you don't need a job, you need money.
Mm,
And I want to dive into this with you. Is that most people think, And again, the programming of going through education and into the workplace and your social circles, you end up believing that you need a job. You don't. No one needs a job. You need income. I'd love to dive into that and get your take on that.
Sure. Well, just to give your audience a bit of background here. So I'm still working the 9 to 5. I started a business earlier this year, and and this is definitely not bragging because it's not big numbers or anything, but I've almost made as much money as my full-time salary this year, and that's just working weekends. So I have to be honest, like before this year, I didn't think I wasn't fully convinced, that like it's part of the programming, that yeah, of course you have to have a job. How else are you going to pay the bills? But over the past couple of years, I've been slowly sort of moving across to sort of your side of the fence, and I'm starting to get it now. But I think this is very common, very normal. Like most people think that way, unfortunately. But yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like, I don't want to dive too much into how I make money online, but I have my books, I sell stock footage, um, I make money from YouTube, of course. I have my own courses and stuff like that, and I'm just having fun, by the way. It's just a lot of fun. It's very creative work. I love it, and I honestly wish I had started like 10 years ago or even earlier, to be honest. When I was 18, I should have started a business because it's fun and it's actually not as hard as people think. I think a lot of people think that when you start a business, you will fail. That has not been my experience. My business will never fail because you just have to be smart about it, especially if you're working with, online stuff. You can't really go bankrupt. Like it's impossible. Like it's not like you have a warehouse or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's you just have to be smart about it, which is common sense, I think.
This is the beauty that of the I love this kind of conversation because this is the beauty that we're in is that we don't have overheads. You just said it. It's unlikely you're going to go bankrupt because you haven't got assets and liabilities that you're laying on the line. You haven't got £100,000 business loan. And like you're doing, and I can't make we'll have a big celebration when you leave your job, and it's coming. And I actually watched one of your videos, right, a little while ago, and I could tell there was a little bit of self-doubt in one of
Mm,
your videos. I think you were quite honest, and you said at the end of the video, you were like, look, this is almost like a bit of a rant, like a bit of a moan that this is just kind of where my head's at the moment.
yeah,
And I could tell you were obviously in one of those, just a little
low
slump.
points. Yeah, low
Yeah.
points. And it happens.
And it happens. And
Yeah.
and you need to take time and reflect because it is possible to replace a salary. And this is the thing about not getting attached to the salaries and the title especially is that you know, you only have to do the immediate of replacing your salary.
Mm,
And that shouldn't be a number that is so far away that it doesn't seem obtainable. You should be living a lifestyle where you say to yourself, I've just got to get to that number. And you're obviously, you are obviously so close
mm.
to that point. And yeah, oh my God.
Aaron, to be honest, like I feel so confident that I could make this work that I could quit tomorrow. There is one problem, and I think this is the biggest wage slave trap ever. Like, if you ask people around, what is the best investment? What are most of them going to say? Buying a house.
Yeah,
And they pay off for that house their entire lives. And that's a wage slave trap right there.
yeah,
And I'm in that situation right now. We have this beautiful house and we're paying for it. And we're going to be paying it for, well, if I stick to the 9 to 5, it's going to be for the rest of my life, basically. But if I start my business, I've already started my business, but if I take my business to the next level, I'm pretty sure I'll pay it off in like a year or two. You know what I mean?
oh yeah. This is the beauty, Tom. This is what people don't understand is that I think, right, as someone who hasn't been in the 9 to 5 for years now,
Mm,
I have come to realize although I had to go through the process, like I am with you on the whole. I wish I'd have started years ago. I wish I'd have started when I was. I mean, I started really when I was 20 anyway, but
That's good.
I wish I'd have started earlier. But what you don't realize when you fully back yourself and you're able to let your wings spread and really go into business is that the money that you were earning in a job, you realize was small money.
Yeah.
And then you realize that actually I can pay things off pretty quick. Like once upon a time, Tom, I was never buying a car outright, ever,
No.
ever. And there's method to my madness to why I buy my cars outright. But you know, now at a point where people might scratch their head going, well, hang on a minute, how did you buy that car outright? It's a 26 plate.
Yeah.
Well, closest to the 26 you can get is 75, right? Is
Mm.
people are going, well, how have you done that? And I'm like, because literally that is like, we're pushing, maybe that's like a 2.5 month for me. And
Uh,
I've been a saver my entire life.
mm.
And that's the mad thing. You look back at your career and I was thinking, man, I was in a warehouse earning £1,800 a month.
Yeah.
But again, it's not about the money. It's then what you do with it. It's the options that it gives you. It's the flexibility. It's being able to go on holiday without ever asking for permission. And I'll tell you what, let me ask you something for everyone to listen into, right? Your journey of, starting to develop your own income, what was your, like, I'd love to know what was your trigger point? Because for me, mine was having my son. Like what sparked you on this journey? Because that's what I'm interested to know and other people. What has brought Tom to this point and why?
But uh, this is
What
kind of
happened?
it's kind of embarrassing. It was actually my wife's idea. I mean that's the cool part. So here's the thing. For years I've been doing YouTube videos, and last year I was doing really good financially. Now I don't know how you do it in the UK, but what I was doing, because I didn't want to tax, I didn't want to pay taxes for the earnings that I did. So what I did was I just reinvested everything I earned into equipment, cameras, computers, and stuff like that. And it was like December last year, and I told my wife, like, I don't know what else to buy. Like, I have everything. Like, how many cameras can you own? So she was like, well, why don't you just start a business? I was like, yeah, I could do that. So it's that simple. It's just, sometimes you need to hear something that's so obvious and simple to do something about it. So yeah. But I honestly, I was very scared about starting a business. And I want to say this to give people hope who are considering starting a business, that I believe that it was just my time, to be honest. Like this was like where, the planets aligned, and everything just felt right. This is my time. Like I'm having the time of my life. This has been one of the best years of my life starting this business. I'm not sure I would have been ready at 18.
Mm.
I don't know, but I'm ready. I'm having fun. This is my time to shine, so to speak.
So 2026 is going to be your year.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
yeah, I feel like 2026 is going to be a great year. Like I think with the changes that are happening with the information that's flying about, especially from me and you, I feel like a lot of people are waking up. What advice, I suppose, look, let's go into some like tips and
Yeah.
things, things that you've learned and about bit you're still in that transitional phase. So you're seeing both sides, I won't I've talked and spoken about how I felt when I was close to leaving, but how has things changed for you in terms of because something that I found was I found it hard to actually look at what was happening in the 9 to 5. Like, how do you compartmentalize being able to remain in a job? Because some people
Mm.
may be thinking, okay, how do I protect myself whilst in a job, while in that transitional phase? Like, how are you doing it, to make sure you can escape without any problems?
Uh, I'm not sure if you mean like, do you mean like changing the the
Going from
the
your
mindset
yeah,
or
like because you have to have an entrepreneur mindset.
yeah, okay, I think I know what you mean. So
Yeah.
here's the thing, Aaron. I think, and this is actually mind-blowing things for me. When you're working the 9 to 5, you're doing what people tell you to do all day long. your boss comes and says, do this KPI report or check this out or start this project. And when you have a business, usually you're on your own and you can't think like a worker. And that has been the biggest transition for me. I have to think very differently. So, for example, a couple of months ago, and I mentioned this on my channel as well a couple of times, I got a fine from the IRS in Sweden because I was late with submitting a tax reports. And I swear, Aaron, like I was terrified. I was like, okay, here come the handcuffs. They're gonna bring me in and they're gonna, shut down my business and I'm never gonna do it again. But obviously that didn't happen. And I just called them up and I explained the situation. I'm new at this business stuff. I didn't know, ChatGPT gave me the wrong advice. It happens sometimes. And they were like, okay. And they just removed the fine, no problems. And after that moment, I was like, okay, so problems can happen. I can't go to a boss and ask, what do I do? But I can fix it myself. So what happened is I felt a sense of empowerment. I felt like, man, I can do things. I know it sounds like silly to someone like you, but when you're working the 9 to 5, this is your reality. You don't make your own decisions. Like everything has to be, approved by someone else. But when you
Mhm.
start your own business, you have to make all the decisions yourself. So
Full
that was the biggest change, I feel.
Mate, I've been there. I know what
Yeah.
it's like. I mean, I've shared so much on my channel and my Instagram and behind the scenes about I never conformed
Mm.
ever. And I didn't like ever giving that power away. Do you know one thing that's always really bothered me, Tom, right?
Uh,
I, from my upbringing, I had a very humble upbringing. Working class. My parents have never had any money. And I hated the levels and the hierarchy. I don't like the disrespect that some people outlay depending on their titles, and I was never on board with that. And because I think as my character, and I don't know what you're like in the workplace with this, but I never put up with BS. Didn't care who it was because I always felt this strong, deep feeling towards you show respect to everyone, no matter who you are, no matter how much money you earn. I mean, I've got one of the biggest events in the UK happening
mm,
next month. We've got MPs, we've got mayors, we've got billionaires. Everyone is getting the same treatment.
mm,
No one is going to be above anyone else. From someone who's just started their first business, who's going to be in that room,
mhm.
to a billionaire, everyone is on the same level.
Oh.
If they're coming, they're on the same level. Egos out the door. And I'm really big on that. And that's like my standards and values. How just, I suppose sort of towards the end of this is how do you deal with that? And I want to make this clear is like for anyone listening, what would be your answer in terms of being able to switch off so that you can do the job so that you can
Mm,
still be paid whilst being able to use your job as basically a fund, an income, but
mm.
you do have to switch off at times mentally, and you just have to get the job done at times, don't you?
It's a challenge for sure. I can't say that I fully mastered it, but I mean, there is the whole, you probably know this, like when you go to work, you sort of go into this character, the work character. You become someone that you're usually not, because if you like you wouldn't let a boss talk like you to you like that, or that coworker would have said something like you would have treated him differently, or you would have just been able to avoid him. So I mean, I still go into that character when I'm into work. I'm very service minded, but I just keep a distance. I've talked a lot about quiet quitting, and I know you've talked about similar things like, I don't do overtime. I just refuse to do overtime. I see absolutely no reason whatsoever to work overtime. They tell me to be there at 8 o'clock, leave at 4. Fine, I'll do that. And sometimes I even leave earlier, but that's because I'm a consultant. They never complain when a consultant leaves earlier because we build them less than. So, but yeah, I mean, you have to have a system, right? But I think, uh, yeah, it's a mindset thing. Like the business part, like I talk a lot about you have to build a business around your passion. I think it's super important, at least for people like me. Like I'm a very creative person, and it has to be around this YouTube thing. That's who I am. That's my thing. That's my thing. So whenever I'm working on my business, it honestly doesn't feel like work. So it's not like I have two jobs. It doesn't feel like that at all. There is the job and there is the passion on the
Yeah.
weekends and the evenings, and I have fun. I have so much fun,
Yeah.
doing the business thing.
This is the beauty of the world that we're in. You can literally monetize your passion.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. Look, I love this, Tom. This is obviously part one. We've covered off a lot of wage slavery here, why it happens, the thought process. We've done a lot of mindset. This is what I really wanted to get out of this episode. And I hope people come away thinking different. And I know a lot of people who are watching this, you've probably seen Tom and I for sure, especially around this subject, but act upon it. That's kind of what I would say. My final tips, and then we'll get Tom's is, if you have listened to us, take one thing away and then go and do it. Don't sit on the information that is so readily available. Tom, have you got a final tip as we close the episode off of part one?
Well, actually, I'm thinking about the pyramids for some reason, but it's a bit of an inside joke on my channel. No, but I mean, I think that in the next part, we're going to talk more about practical things. We're going to really get into it because that's something I think a lot of people struggle with. So my advice is to go and check that out when it comes out.
Yeah,
Part two.
absolutely. Part two is going to be out and it will be on Tom's channel. I did hope, you enjoyed this episode. Again, it's all about learning and taking information away. And like we both just said, go away and do it. But make sure you check out part two. And until next time, we'll see you all very soon.